Blessed love. What's going on, Light Warrior? Thank you for tuning in to Monday Message. It is lovely to be here with you on another blessed Monday. It's a holiday Monday, so maybe you're feeling a little more blessed today. I have a little bit of inspiration for you, or a little bit of food for thought, rather, hopefully to get you inspired. Inspired for what? Inspired to keep taking those steps towards the better version of you that you'd like to be. These Monday messages are here to support you on that journey and to keep you constantly motivated and inspired and remembering why you are choosing to fight that good fight, or to keep walking the line, to stay in the straight and narrow, whatever you call walking your course and doing your thing and keeping your main thing the main thing. So I'd love to share with you this quote by C.S. Lewis that I heard recently. Maybe, he says, maybe suffering in this world is like a clarion call, like God's megaphone to arouse a deaf world. Let me read that again. Maybe, just maybe, suffering in this world, because a lot of us ask, why does suffering exist? If God is all good and all great, why does suffering exist? Maybe suffering in this world is like a clarion call, God's megaphone to arouse a deaf world. I heard this and I'm getting the chills just saying it right now, and I feel like we are in the time where like the suffering is a clarion call, is God's megaphone saying, wake up! You guys are missing the mark a little bit. So despite what's going on with COVID-19 and the quarantine, right? Because that's a whole conversation within itself, that global suffering. And maybe you are in a place where that is causing your immediate suffering. I want you to just think about your life and the times in your life where you were really suffering, and it kind of made you pivot in your life. Like you had to pivot for whatever reason. And you can look back and be grateful for that depth of suffering, because it's what made you pivot. Like we have our own expression, right? Like when we hit rock bottom, that suffering is like a wake-up call, you know? And so like, hello, the wake-up call is happening all the time. Like we just wait for it to get all the way down to the bottom. Why do we wait for to hit the rock bottom? We don't have to wait to hit rock bottom before we make a pivot and we heed the call of the divine forces at play in this world that are letting us know, hey, you're walking down the wrong path. Like my good friend Karina, she says that emotions are indicators. Emotions are indicators. So if I'm feeling bad about a choice I made, it's an indicator that I need to reflect on the choice that I made and why I feel bad about it. The bad is indicating to something deeper. Either I am not in alignment with my integrity, or maybe an old wound or trigger, an old wound has been triggered. But the feeling of badness is not the thing to fixate on, but that's what we do, right? We fixate on the feeling and we start thinking about the feeling, and then we're spinning out in the feeling. We're spinning out in the thought about the feeling. But really the feeling is an indicator. The emotion is an indicator. If I'm feeling ashamed about something, it's an indication that I wasn't acting in alignment with my values or my integrity or my morals or my integrity, my authenticity. I said integrity already, right? My authenticity. Feeling ashamed. Different than shame, which comes from an outside source. Ashamed is a natural feeling that we all have on the inside when we know that what we did wasn't the right or the best or the good thing. Shame comes from other people who shame us for what we do. That's a different conversation. And if you have a lot of shame, I recommend that you start reading Brené Brown's books, any one of her books. Rising Strong would be a great one to start with, or Daring Greatly. But she is a shame researcher. So feeling ashamed comes from inside. And that emotion is an indicator towards something. It's like saying, hello, pay attention over here. Did you forget that this moral ethic thing was important to you and you just were like out there doing whatever you wanted to do? You have this integrity. Hello, don't forget. Come back to your integrity. That feeling of ashamed is a feeling that's trying to draw you back into your integrity. Not to like beat you down into the ground because you're a sucky person. It's an indicator letting you know, like, turn back, right? Go back the other way. And so maybe, you know, your emotion is depression or sadness, right? That's an indicator. It's indicating to you. It's a wake-up call. It's God's megaphone working through your emotions saying, oh, this maybe not be the best path for you. Maybe what you need, but there are other paths you could take. Right? And so we really pay attention to your suffering. Pay attention to where you're suffering. We know, those of us, I say we, like those of us in the yoga community and in the Eastern tradition communities, yoga teaches that all life is suffering. Buddha teaches that all life is suffering. Not that we are just supposed to suffer through our whole lives, but that life just has suffering. It just does. We live in a duality world. We live in a world of polarity. So when there is happiness, there is the opposite, that is sadness. We can't know true happiness without knowing depths of sadness, nor can we know the heights of happiness if we don't know the depths of sadness. And so there's suffering is bound to happen. And you can suffer miserably or you can suffer well. And I think I really like this quote because C.S. Lewis is saying that suffering in this world, in the world, I'm thinking of like the world at large, right? Or just in your world. It's like a clarion call. It's God's megaphone to arouse you out of your slumber, to arouse you out of your sleep, to arouse you out of your illusion, and to wake up, to dream awake into the life that you were meant to live. And using that suffering as an opportunity to just wake up. And don't wait till you're at rock bottom. You don't have to wait till you're there. You can notice like, oh, I'm suffering here. It's an indicator. And I don't mean discomfort or feeling challenged or awkward. I mean suffering, like real suffering. I mean, it's all suffering, right? But you all know what I mean. Like right now, humanity is suffering. We are going through a pandemic and people are trying to make sense of it. Like, why is this happening? That's why I really liked this quote, because sometimes when we can't explain it away, we can't connect the dots, we can't, it's hard to make sense rationally or logically. This is where my faith really comes into play, and I'm super grateful for my faith, because when things don't make sense rationally or logically, they don't make material sense. Like, why do good things happen to bad people? Right? These kind of quotes, these kinds of sayings bring me a lot of comfort, oddly enough. They bring me comfort to know that, like, hey, this is an opportunity to wake up. It's like a parent who puts their kid on a timeout. I used to put my kids on a time in. I make them go meditate, sit with themselves. But I would, that was like a wake-up call. It's like, whoa, stop what you're doing. You're in your madness. We need to like just stop, shift directions. And my kids would definitely say that was suffering, having to sit in those time ins. They didn't like it, but it was a wake-up call, right? To arouse a deaf world. So before you get to that place in your life where God or the creator or the divine or the universe or whatever you want to call it, before that supreme divine infinite energy has to send you a wake-up call, just wake up. Just decide to wake up. Your suffering would be so much less than what it is. We endure so much unnecessary suffering because we would rather just stay in our delusional stories about what's going on, rather than being honest and self-reflective, being responsible, accountable, right? We get stuck in the details of the stories and we just perpetuate our suffering. So before you get to a place where the divine has to get out its megaphone to arouse you out of your deafness, just open those ears and wake up. Listen to those emotions that are indicating to you like, ooh, I'm really struggling in this situation. And you know, it's good to ask, like, do I need to go through this struggle? Because sometimes we just got to struggle through things. The struggle is, you know, it's so tricky, right? Everything is so nuanced and contextually based. And so you have to ask yourself, is the struggle that I just got to like stick with this thing, or is the struggle that I have to walk away from this thing? Whatever the struggle is, you have to ask yourself, do I need to walk through this mountain? Or is this mountain an unnecessary detour? And only you will know that. Only you will know that. And so, you know, I'm asking you to contemplate investigating your emotions and getting beneath them and say, what are they indicating? What are my emotions indicating? I'm feeling angry. What's under that? Well, typically under anger is hurt or worry. Okay, so I'm feeling hurt. Well, what's under that? You just kind of keep going, and you have to then sort of address your life. Like, can I make a course correction here? Can I adjust? Can I pivot? Can I shift or change or adapt or anything to this situation that would alleviate some of that unnecessary suffering? Only you will know the answer to that, my friend. And only you will know that answer when you actually have clarity, enough clarity that your mind is quiet enough that you can access the intuition of the heart. So I feel like our world is getting a megaphone call right now. And we're being aroused into awakeness and out of our sleeping slumber. And I know it's a scary time for a lot of people. And it's also a very exciting time for a lot of people. I'm super excited to see people waking up out of their sleepy slumber. So where else in your life have you been asleep a little bit? And maybe reflect on the areas where you feel like, why is this happening to me? And change that languaging a bit to, oh, this is happening for me. This is God's megaphone right here, arousing me out of my deaf world. It's a wake-up call. You were sleeping, it's okay. We've all been there. I have moments too. It's like, oh my God, I need to wake up. Wake up out of this illusion. Wake up. You are tormenting yourself. I've been there. So you just come back to the practices, you lean into the tools, and you start taking steps in the direction of intentional living. Intentional living. And we begin to sort of root out unnecessary suffering in our lives. Because there's always going to be suffering, but we just compile and add so much more on that is not necessary. Oh, have I been that person? I have so been that person. So is there a wake-up call going on in your life right now? And if there is, just I would journal about it and reflect on it and find your friends that are really close to you, your friends who have earned the right to hear your story, and talk to them about it and get their feedback on it. Not their opinion, but their feedback. Find people that you love and trust. Okay, my friends, it's time that we wake up, right? This is a wake-up call. I'm so glad we're waking up. I hope that you have found this video helpful and inspiring, and hopefully it maybe like cleared a little bit of the fog that's going on up there, because sometimes when we're just all up in our stuff, we're all up in our stuff and it's just a big mess. I've been there too. So hopefully we've brushed away some of that stuff, and it's like the wake up. This is God's megaphone. Wake up. It's time to wake up. You can wake up at any moment, just like that. You really can. You really can. You can choose today to wake up. Like, ooh, all this suffering. Yeah, let me not take steps down that path anymore. Let me just at least stop taking steps and just stand still for a moment until I can decide which direction I want to pivot in my life. I'm fully able and capable of doing so. All right, my dear friends, I hope that you found this helpful and inspiring. I know I said that already. I'm going to blog out here and jump off this video and get back to the rest of my day. And I hope that you have an inspiring Monday. You have a joyful, blissful Monday. And I hope that you are a blessing as much as you are blessed by others. Be a blessing to others as much as others are a blessing to you. Be blessed and be a blessing. Peace out. I'll see you next time, you guys. Namaste.